Hello children, hope all of you are fit and fine. Today in this class, I am going to discuss Unit 3 of Chapter 5, Our Runaway Kite by Lucy Maud Montgomery. But at first, let us discuss a little bit from the previous portions which you have already learned. Philippa Leyte, Claude Leyte, their father, Aunt Esther, Dick and Mimi are the main characters of this story. Philippa, Claude and their father lived on the Big Half Moon Island. Their father was the keeper of the Big Half Moon lighthouse. One thing that always puzzled the narrator, that is Philippa Leyte and Claude, was the fact of their not having any relation. Once they asked their father about it, but their father was very upset on hearing the question. So they decided not to discuss about it anymore. Now every winter, as their harbour got frozen over, they had to move to the mainland. And again, with the advent of the spring, they returned back to their own dear island. One such winter, a boy on the mainland taught Claude how to make kites. Following summer, both Claude and Philippa developed this hobby of making kites. They made a lot of kites. One day, they made a very big red kite with red paper. They decided to fly that kite. The wind was also glorious that day. But while running, Philippa tripped over the rock and her elbow went straight through the kite and it made a big hole there. So they had to mend the kite immediately. They ran into the lighthouse and the first thing which came handy to them was an old old letter. That old letter was lying on the shelf of the bookcase in the sitting room of the lighthouse. So they took that old paper, pasted it on the kite and dried it by the fire. They even decorated that kite with gold tinsel. They also wrote their name as well as that is Philippa Leyte and Claude Leyte and the address, Big Half Moon Lighthouse. Then they flew that kite. The kite flew very high. It soared very high. But suddenly, Claude was standing there foolishly with a bit of cord in his hand. The kite was snapped and it had sailed away over to the mainland. So come children, let's see what happened to that kite. A month later, a letter came for father. After he finished reading it, his eyes looked as if he had been crying. "Do you want to know what became of your kite?" he said. Then he sat down beside us and told us the whole story. So after a month of that incident, father received one letter. And as he read that letter, he got emotional. It appeared as if he had been crying. He asked both Philippa and Claude that if they wanted to know what became of their kite. Then he sat beside them and he narrated his old story. Father had a brother and a sister. He had quarrelled with his brother and left home. Years afterward, he felt sorry, and when he went back, he found his brother had died and he could not find his sister. So children, father means Philippa and Claude's father. He had a brother and a sister. But father had quarrelled with his brother and so he left his home. And years afterward, after feeling sorry, when he returned back, he found that his brother was no more and he also could not find his sister. The letter father had just received was from his sister, Aunt Esther, mother of Dick and Mimi. She was a widow who lived hundreds of miles inland. Aunt Esther means Esther was the sister, name of the sister of narrator's father. And Aunt Esther's, she was the mother of Dick and Mimi. And the letter which father received was from Aunt Esther. She was a widow and she lived with her children hundreds of miles inland. One day when Dick and Mimi were out in the woods, they discovered the kite on the top of a tree and carried it home. So one day when Dick and Mimi were out in the woods, means forest, they found that kite on the top of the tree. So what did they do? They carried that runaway kite and they carried it back to home. When their mother saw the kite patched with the letter, she turned pale. It was the very letter she had once written to her brother. Philippa was her mother's name and Claude was her father's. She knew who we must be. So she sat down and wrote to Big Half Moon, and father received her letter. Aunt Esther turned pale because she could easily recognize the letter with which that kite was patched up. It was the same letter which she had once written to her brother. Her brother means Philippa and Claude's father. And moreover, on the kite, she could also read the name of Philippa and Claude. And Philippa was actually the name of narrator's grandmother, and Claude was the narrator's grandfather. So she could easily recognize that they must be that is her nephew and niece, and at the same time she hoped that her brother was also alive then, as it was the same letter which she had once written to her brother. So she sat down and she wrote to Big Half Moon, and father received that letter. The very letter which made father emotional. Next day, father went and brought Aunt Esther and Dick and Mimi with him. So next day, what did their father do? He went straight to their place. Their place means Aunt Esther's place, and he brought them. Them means Aunt Esther, Dick and Mimi with him. They have been here ever since. Aunt Esther is a dear and Dick and Mimi are too jolly for words. So after that incident, what happened, children? All of them were reunited, and Aunt Esther was very dear to them, and Dick and Mimi, that means their cousins, were also too jolly, means they were too mirthful and they were too lively to be described in words. But the best of it all is that we have relations now. But the best part of the story is that they also had relations like all other children. So I hope the chapter is now clear to you. Indeed, the kite played a very important role because it was only because of that kite that all the family members were reunited and they lived happily thereafter. Come children, let us discuss the comprehension exercises now. Choose the correct alternative to complete the following sentences. A letter came for father after a month. Father left home after quarreling with his brother. Dick and Mimi discovered the kite on the top of a tree. Fill in the chart with information from the text. Person who sent the letter, Aunt Esther. Name of Aunt Esther's mother, Philippa. Total number of family members in the narrator's family at present, 6. Can you name them? Philippa Leyte, Claude Leyte, their father, Aunt Esther, Dick and Mimi. Answer the following questions. What did father find when he went back home years afterward? So years afterward, feeling sorry, when father went back home, he found that his brother was no more and he could not find his sister also. Where did Aunt Esther live? Aunt Esther lived hundreds of miles inland. Why did Aunt Esther turn pale? Aunt Esther turned pale because she believed that Philippa and Claude were none other than her own nephew and niece. She also hoped that her brother was also alive then, because the kite was patched with that very letter which she had once written to her brother. I hope now this chapter is clear to you. Now in your next assignment sheet, you will get questions from this chapter. Children, you will do those questions as well as all these comprehension exercises in your literature copy, and the grammar portion you will do it in your language copy. Okay, bye.